I honestly have had like 3 cups of coffee now, and I'm feeling a little jittery. I went to light that candle, my hand was shaking around the whole time.
A little zooted.
Are you nervous to shoot the podcast?
Nervous to... Are we shooting or recording?
Record, I guess.
There's a little bit of a difference between...
Whoa, sorry.
You guys ready to roll a nat 20 on this episode or what?
Oh, fuck yes. And we're back, baby. What's up? Episode 2. Assuming, again, things go according to plan.
Yeah, assuming things go the way they're supposed to.
Nice and smooth. This is Not to Mention podcast. Almost didn't mention it.
Oh, yeah, we gotta, like, actually introduce ourselves and stuff.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Colin.
We've finally released our first episode. It's out. It's on Spotify, on Anchor FM, on Google Podcast, other places to listen, and you're listening now. And we've had a lot of feedback, good feedback, a lot of good criticism and things to work on and work towards.
Yeah.
And we've actually had a lot of response from some friends that we haven't been really communicating with a whole lot lately, which has kind of brought us down some memory lane here.
All right, which brings us to our discussion for today. We're basically just gonna talk about ourselves and some stories that we
I think we've actually fallen into more of a misadventure type of feel. some stories that created some very interesting experiences for us.
Be going down the proverbial memory lane and sort of opening some old wounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Not
I think
to say that these experiences were unpleasant altogether, but for this specific discussion, we're going to be more or less talking about the downfalls of these trips.
Right, yeah, big time.
And just some fun things.
And I think, most of these stories are shared experiences, but a couple of them I'm actually looking forward to hearing because I don't know about or remember hearing about them. So
it's definitely been a minute for some of this.
And before we really get the ball rolling, I had thought beforehand. I think most of us have these situations where we say, this is going to be one of those times when we look back and laugh at it.
Definitely.
And this we can very honestly say are those situations where it was horrible at the time.
Mm-hmm. Nightmarish.
But we can at least look back and laugh at it.
Absolutely.
Pick up the ball, Josh. This is your topic.
Yeah,
let's go.
The Greyhound bus is generally, I think, accepted as a very frowned upon. It's not going to be a pleasant experience. I think that, like, if you were to take a consensus that it's not going to be your first choice of travel.
No, not your first choice. Definitely
correct.
not a luxury trip.
All right, so
however,
getting that,
those buses are getting nicer and nicer, I will say.
I did actually read something about the refurbishing them. Anyway, so that being established, this story revolves around my first and only trip ever taking Greyhound on a long distance trip. It was with a couple of friends. It was for our quote unquote senior trip.
Okay.
We went to North Carolina.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, and it really wasn't
senior trip. Yeah, I don't remember you going on a senior trip at all.
Couple of friends. It really, I won't lie. It was a great trip. But as far as like bad things happening, like really, it was all around a really good trip in my memory. There was one thing in particular that I remembered when we got there. We met the gentleman who was hosting us for the week that we stayed there, or however long it was, and his name was JC. Obviously a nickname. I don't know his actual name, but he was a priest.
Okay.
That was kind of coincidental or ironic, and obviously he embraced that, knowing that he was going into the ministry. JC was a great nickname.
Okay.
So JC priest. As soon as we got into North Carolina, off the bus, met this man. He said, "You guys hungry?" We all agreed, "Yeah, we're famished. We've been on the Greyhound for 20 hours or something like that." It took so long. We had to switch buses and everything. And this gentleman took us to a Hooters. Also, first and only time I've ever been to a Hooters with a priest.
Yeah, all right.
So, backpedaling just a little bit, the other funny moments that I do specifically remember from this trip was on the Greyhound itself, which was nightmarish. We were on with all sorts of colorful characters, and at one point, the bus was starting to fill up, and a gentleman who was rather large took a seat next to me. Immediately, I was kind of uncomfortable. He was eating up a little bit of my personal space, and shortly thereafter, we were going down the road. This man fell asleep. He's taking a nap with his hands folded, up, resting on top of his belly.
Oh, I know that move. I do that all the time, yeah.
And so I'm seated next to him.
I can relate to all
You know, right next to him.
Trust me, he's more conscious about it than you are.
In his sleep, while he's sleeping, his hands become unfolded and his hand flops down into my lap.
Oh.
And I immediately was like, no, fuck no. And I got up, I grabbed my shit, and moved to a different spot, across the aisle from him that had just recently become free. Then, shortly thereafter, one last little tidbit, I was napping myself, as did happen quite a bit, because there wasn't really much to do, and I wasn't even close to my friends.
Yeah,
so
no
I fell asleep.
or anything, you know.
All right, I fell asleep. I wake up, and this same gentleman is sleeping, and he has propped his legs up onto my knees, on top of my knees, as if I were an ottoman.
What? Whoa.
And I just shove his legs off, and once again, I'm like, no, fuck, no, what?
That's weird. That one's a little bit
That
too
is
far,
like,
man.
I don't even know how I would
Shoes
handle
on,
that.
right? Shoes on, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
thank
just,
God.
Just propped up on me,
I
like,
was just picturing him like popping those puppies off, like,
oh, God,
let me get this
God,
up.
no.
Yeah, that's
That's
terrifying. You know, just I have a funny image of you with a priest at Hooters, and I imagine this wasn't the case, but I'm imagining him with like the white collar and everything. Like,
Oh,
No,
and
he
his
was
uniform.
obviously in his street
But,
clothes.
yeah.
And, you know, I did, like, briefly think about it. You know, he was just thinking, these are a bunch of senior boys. Where do I take them for, you know, a fun time? And
Yeah. Well, the first thing that pops to my mind when I think of like travel mishaps or, you know, festival or concert mishaps is a story that I refer to fondly as the Orange Guy. And it's a very on-the-nose name for the story. Basically, what happened is, I think I was at Wakarusa 2010 or All Good 2011. I don't know. It all kind of
like
just
a shitty superhero.
it all kind of just like mashes. It all like blends one into the other for me. I can't really keep it all straight, but we had decided we wanted to go on a Ferris wheel ride. They had a Ferris wheel set up there, and it was supposed to be free to go on the Ferris wheel. And it was late at night, and we were drunk, and, you know, we thought it'd be cool to, like, take the Ferris wheel, see the lights of the festival and everything.
That sounds like a terrible idea. I hate heights, though.
Yeah. I mean, I did okay with it, despite me not being great with heights, but that's beside the point. We get up to the front of the line, and
Ryan's thinking, that's the last thing I want to do after having a few drinks is go to a great height.
Well, maybe that would give me the courage, you know, the liquid courage to just do it, I suppose,
Possibly.
maybe. But then I'll throw up on the people below me.
to make a longer part of the story short, we spent way too long fumbling with the guy at the admission to the Ferris wheel because he didn't speak very good English, and we were just not easy to communicate with, being a little bit tipsy, and he finally was able to communicate to us that we need to get our ticket at a booth. We get the ticket for free, then we come back given the ticket. I'm sure this is just so they can keep track of how many people took the ride or whatever. We go there, we get the tickets, and actually it might have been on the way there or on the way back. It doesn't really make a difference. And we are stopped short by this guy who is in nothing but his boxers and a camelback, and his hair is going everywhere.
I mean, it was hot out, right? I mean, I assume.
Oh well, no, it was a pretty cool night.
Well,
so,
yeah,
like,
okay, it's evening.
This guy was higher than the International Space Station. Let's put it that way. Like, he had eyes just as big as saucers, and was.
Well, we've all seen that guy.
He looked afraid. He stopped all of us dead in our tracks. And he's got an orange cut in half, and he's rubbing it all over his upper body, everywhere, with this look of fear in his eyes. And he whispers to us very intensely, "No. Why are you doing this to me?"
No, fuck. I thought orange guy, like, I'm thinking like Green Man, like one of those dudes in like a green suit or something.
Oh, yeah,
like,
no.
I had no idea that it was the fruit.
Yeah. That was another funny thing to us. Is like, where did he get the orange?
Maybe a vendor,
I imagine
brought
he bought it with him or something.
It was
But
probably originally like supposed to be a garnish or something for his.
And,
There's just no water in his camel pack. It's just all oranges.
that's one of my it's one of my favorite memories. It stuck with me, and whether that guy was doing it just to mess with us or because he was messed up, it gave me something that I will always remember.
Just really quick, Orange Guy, if you're out there, could you please contact us? Not to mention podcast, Facebook, please.
Yes.
Get a hold of us.
Yeah, there's probably endless stories of festivals and stuff going as audiences, but I do have one here on the other side of just working events and stuff like that. Colin and I do a lot of lighting for you guys out there that don't know. We work in the music industry, I guess, mainly, but we do also like random events, a lot of weddings and stuff like that. And I have one in particular that this one was more of like a struggle, a little bit more of like out of my element kind of thing. I was definitely still really young and like new to the game, I guess, so to speak. And I got hired to go.
Which game is that?
The lighting game. But I got hired to go to Detroit and work an event in Detroit. And, at the time it was
it was like an art
it was like an art thing,
art festival.
And I was super excited about it at the time, and of course, I mean, even looking back on it now, it was an awesome opportunity, so glad I did it. But it started out really rough, and it just kind of kept going that way. And it started out, I remember we had to buy like just even getting the right like trailer hitch just to get like our trailer hooked up just to get it from Grand Rapids to Detroit. And I remember as soon as we got there, it was getting late. I had this huge tent that I had to like set up these lights in, and I had this little corner. All I had was like the basic package that I had started with, just a few lights and stuff.
Right.
Huge tent. We set it all up and we get it going. And next thing I know, the lady comes in and she like starts looking around, and she was like, well, all these exhibits are going to be in here and stuff, and we're going to need all the exhibits like lit up. There's going to be stuff here. There's going to be stuff here. That's when it dawned on me, like, oh no, I am like I'm a rock concert lighting guy. Like, I only have that package, and there's this huge tent, and these are art exhibits that need to be lit up.
Just a huge lack of communication in between you and the client and what was needed and what they actually want. It's just like, hire a light guy, he'll show up and he'll light up our stuff.
Yeah, well, and like, so it turned into even more just like we had to start, brainstorming, where can we go to get equipment, who can we call, what are the best prices, and it started.
Do candles qualify as lighting?
Yeah, dude, it got very hectic. It was a very stressful couple
days. So you're
days.
Like renting from local rental companies?
Well, and I think we even actually bought some of it that people kept. And, it was something that, like, I remember working night and day all the way through, and, like, very little sleep. I remember losing sleep because I was just so stressed over my head, like, oh no, I'm not going to pull this off. This is a huge event. I'm not going to do this. This isn't going to work. And I will even say I was so afraid of heights, which, calling back to that, most of this lighting that got put up at the time, I was so afraid of heights that, like, other people had to put it up for me. Like, I was telling them where to put it, basically. And so it got worse. We finally got done with everything. Everything that we had was utilized as much as we could. It was like midnight. That was our cutoff time. We needed to be off
like
site.
You're supposed to be done and out of there.
And the client walked in, and I'll never forget. She like starts looking around, and I'm like, all right, cool. We're doing all right. We're doing good. You know,
She's not freaking out yet.
yeah. And then I just hear, no, oh no, this isn't gonna work at all. And it's like, dude, this is midnight before the event. We're supposed to be done.
No, it's all wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah. No, dude, it was just like, oh no. And like, there wasn't anything we could do until we got back the next day. Like, the next day was our last time to touch everything up and fix these issues. So we left that night, and I'll never forget getting back to the hotel, and the gentleman that hired me that I was working with went up to the desk, and he's like, you know, I know that the cookies probably aren't like complimentary or anything, but like, we've just had like a really bad day. Is there any way I could get like a couple cookies from you guys? And the lady was so sweet to us, and she like, oh, just let me heat them up real quick, and like threw them in the microwave for us and heated them up. And like, we both like, you know, walked the hallways just like in just utter defeat, dude. Just
She looked at you and said, "These boys need a cookie."
yeah. Oh my god, dude. We got back to the room, and I did not sleep that night. I will never forget that night. I lost sleep, and yeah, actually, I will say, I think we did pull it off. We did do some touching up, but we didn't do much because it was just kind of what it was. And I do remember hearing her talking to, like, you know, the head of everything, like the head honcho, and he's in the tent with her, and she was like, you know, we just tried our hardest and everything, and just, you know, we did what we could. And I just heard him like, it looks great in here. I love all the colors and everything. I love how everything looks and feels. So like, that was my moment of success after everything
finally
said and done,
worked
you know?
out. I actually do remember some of the panicked like phone calls and texts that I got from you when you were doing that too.
Ooh, and to top it all off, I forgot about this. I locked the keys to the trailer inside the trailer after a safety meeting. Had to call Russ, and you know, Russ, shout out to you. That man drove all the way from Grand Rapids with the spare key to the trailer, and picked up the trailer and me and drove it back to Grand Rapids.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, that was like the cherry on top of just like, this was an absolute trash, like, just, I almost failed completely.
Almost. not entirely in the end. So, to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, some of my fondest memories, Ryan and I both, are definitely from Summer Camp Music Festival, where we've worked the lighting at the VIP tent for the last couple of years. Well, couple is an understatement.
Yeah, understatement, definitely.
Almost. I think we were
6 years or something.
6-7 years or something like that.
Working with Herm Productions.
Yep. And down there at that tent, we work with a couple of guys, Dane and John, who have become really good friends of ours. And they do the sound, we do the lights, and we're a great, double duo. That, you know, we have a good time working together, and we've never had any issues with each other. We've never had arguments. Everything always runs smoothly, for the most part. Yeah. As smooth as it can anyway, when you're working, 12, 16-hour shifts for 4 days straight. But at the end of the night, I remember packing up.
Or beginning of the morning.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was really
The
early
sun's
morning.
Coming up, we're getting done with our final set down there.
Yeah. And usually the last set of the night at that tent, we would stick around and help the sound guys tear down their mics and their cables and everything so that everything was clean, and then we'd all drive back together on the golf cart. Oh. So we're all hopping on the golf cart, and we look to the back of the tent, and the bass player from Let Us Jesus is sitting at the bar, and he just like nods at us and gives us a little wave over the top of his head, like a nice, friendly wave. And we were like, oh, hey, Jesus just waved at us. That's cool.
Nice, man. And like, I think we even celebrated it a little bit. Like, we gave ourselves a little applause. Like, nice, dude. That's a good way to end the day, or start the day, end the night.
And so we all went, caught some sleep, came back the next day, did our shift, and it was another long night, as it always is there. We get done at 2 or 3 in the morning. We pack up everything, and we're driving away on our golf cart again, and walking like kind of by the tent is Jesus again, and he waves at us again, and we were like, oh, hey, he's waving at us again. Wow, that's funny. What a coincidence. And so we waved back, and like we all had a little chuckle about it.
Again, I think I might know where this is going.
And finally, the third night, Or no, third night we I don't think we saw him.
No,
third
I think
morning,
we wanted to. It was the final. Like we were getting ready to
and we were like, oh man, we really want it to happen again, you know, and it didn't happen, and we were a little bit bummed, right? So skip ahead to the end of the weekend, and we are packing up everything. Everything's going into the trailers, and we're helping our buddies get all their sound stuff
the
torn
golf cart
down,
back and forth.
And on our final like drive away from the tent in the golf cart, we see Jesus like off in the distance. Like everything's already torn down, you know, like people's tents are gone, people are gone from the festival, so it's mostly just open fields at this point. And he's like down at the end of a road with nothing around him, just like waving at us in the distance. I swear to God.
I think he waited for us. And he had a very like distinct wave too. It wasn't like he was like really like throwing his arm back and forth. He would just kind of like throw it up like there it is. Like, hey boys, take care.
Man.
And we also envisioned as we pulled away that night morning laughing about it. We were like, do you think he's just always gonna be there?
Some say he's still out there in those fields waving to passers-by.
See, I was waiting for not to say. I mean that was a great ending. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with it, but I was waiting for some sort of like punchline where like I was convinced that you were stealing his golf cart every night.
Oh, come back! He's like, wait, dude, like, come on,
stop stealing my golf cart.
Oh my God, yes.
That's great.
Speaking of golf carts, I can honestly remember, and Colin, I'm sure you remember as I go through this, but there was one night where we had gotten picked up and we were catching a ride back. I think it was Nixon who had picked us up, and we were on our way back, and we were definitely overloaded in the golf cart. There was 5 of us, I think, packed on it, and all of our, you know, backpacks and computers and equipment and our between our legs. It was just like crowded golf cart, and we're soaring back to the bus. We want to take our break time as much as we can. And I remember as we're getting back to the bus, all of a sudden this dude comes flying up on us. It was like getting pulled over, like legit.
Like golf cart police?
Yeah, the dude was like, pull over. And
citizens arrest.
You know, of course, we're like, well, we're back in the bus already anyway.
Oh,
so, like,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And as we pull over, we all get off the golf cart. The guy's got the lights of the golf cart directed at all of us and immediately gets off and he's like, hold it right there. And we realize, oh, this is security. Like, big old dude, he's like stopping us. And he starts rambling off about how, like, you know, like somebody drove by the gate in a golf cart and like shoved over the security guard and kept driving and is accusing all of us of this. And we're all sitting there looking at each other like, dude, we just got done working.
We just want to go home.
Yeah, we just want to get on the bus. We just want to relax.
Like, we're all in our uniforms.
Like, us right now.
Yeah,
exactly. We're just like, come on, man. And the funny thing was,
well, some of the more pig-headed people in the group, stubborn people in the group were like, you know, no, I'm not even dealing with this. I'm walking away from this. And that was, well, yeah, but at the same time, we're working, you know, so like we got to be respectful and professional, you know.
And I do remember though, it was just a late night, dude. We're tired, and like I remember the guy was like, "No, the guy's on his way right now to confirm that it was you guys. I need you to stand right here and wait." And on this team, I'm pretty sure there was, I mean, probably close to 10 or something.
It was a
big team
group that year.
And all of a sudden, here comes the rest of the squad off the bus, and including our boss, and you know, they're just talking to us because they don't realize what's going on. And we start pointing out to them like, "Hey, we're in a lineup right now."
Yeah. Like I remember Herm walking up and standing next to us, facing the same way and looking at us and being like, "So, what are we doing?"
Yeah, like what's going on here? You know, then I even remember furthermore. I remember thinking to myself like, we're all wearing the same shirt. We're wearing our production shirts. We've all got walkie-talkies on. Like, we can't look any more a part of this festival than we're at the bus. We've got all our gear. This dude comes flying and rides up and he hops off of the golf cart and he's ready to accuse us all. Even I remember he had his finger pointed at one of the guys and he's like, "I remember you." And he starts looking around more and he's like, "Where's the girl?" And the security guard's just like, "Oh man, there was a girl, dude. There wasn't a girl on this golf cart." And he like immediately, "Oh, I'm so sorry, guys." And everybody, you know, we all made up and shook hands. It was no big deal, and we laughed. Like, oh, dude, just so ridiculous, man. Just trying to do our jobs.
So kind of going back to what Josh was saying before, where like things just go wrong for us. The first music festival we all went to together was Rothbury 2008. And
well, besides the Wheatland Festival festivals.
Well,
I guess,
yeah,
but-
we went to Wheatland as a family and stuff, but Rothbury was like the first time I went to a music festival where like it was my thing or our thing, you know.
Music we wanted to see.
And
that was a struggle in itself getting there.
Yeah, getting there was tough. You know, we were still in high school, so convincing Mom to let us go was...
Dude, I'll never forget the night before. Our dad's like, "Oh man, I wish I could go to that, but your mother would never let me." And then the next day we asked Mom, and she's like, "Only if your dad will go with you." And it was like, boom, we're going.
Game on. So,
and just to clarify, I was still young. But I think my first festival was in 05 or
Right,
05.
right. I had a little bit of experience with it.
We'll call it experience.
Josh, you're still young now, buddy. I just want you to know that, all right? You're looking good. You're good.
So, right out the gate, the entire trip was difficult. We locked our keys in the car.
Yeah, it's like 5 a.m.
Like-
we're trying to get there in line.
Yeah, and it was cold out, so like I think we were warming up the car or something, had it started, ready to go, we're excited.
No, you're talking about right before we left, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll go ahead and take the reins on this one. We had been... I think maybe this... I'm going to take that back and say I had been up most of the night in anticipation, as if I was some child waiting for Christmas morning to come and Santa to bring my presents. We'd planned for this for a really long time. We were all really excited, and I had pretty much stayed up the entire night. We had plans to just get up and leave right at the butt crack of dawn. We get up, we're packing the car, and I vividly remember what happened. While packing the trunk, dropped or slipped the keys into the trunk, closed the trunk, no spare key, couldn't get it open, the car was locked still, and so we had to break into the car in order to pop the trunk, get the keys, and leave. But I don't know that was the first time that I'd ever had to jimmy the door on my car. Definitely not the last. But I did end up getting into it, I want to say maybe an hour or so later. We lost some time that morning, and everyone was really angry and upset about it.
Yeah, we had a whole caravan of people
waiting.
Yeah. The stress was definitely on.
It was real.
And, you know, I remember once we got in and we got there, everything was running pretty smooth. I remember getting the campsite set up. And you, Josh, in particular, you had warned us. I remember you were like, you know, here's the thing, guys. You need to remember that, like, when it comes nighttime, finding your campsite's not as easy as you think it would be.
Stuff's gonna change, people are gonna fill it out more.
And this was from personal experience from my first festival, where I made the deadly mistake of setting up camp and just wandering off, all prancing around happy. And we had shown up pretty early, so not anywhere close to all of the attendees. And by the time a few hours had passed and we were trying to find our campsite, it was immediately unrecognizable and we had a map, but at the time, it didn't make much sense.
And
to
it didn't
us.
help that, like, I think we had gone and seen, you know, like 3 or 4 acts at that point, and the sun was going down, and we, like, start wandering, and, like, I remember we had done it for, like, an hour or so, and maybe 2 hours, and then, like, finally, I think we walked in, like, somebody, like, just stumbled upon it. Like, I don't even remember how somebody realized that it was our campsite, but they were just, like, walking through it and, like, stopped, and they were like, oh, hey, this is it. And it was like, oh shit, how many times did we circle by this? Like, we had to have just, like, walked in circles around this.
I honestly, if I remember correctly, I do believe we were walking in circle, like, not accidentally. We were, like, doing loops, circuits, trying to, like, see if we could find something that
Walking
we recognized.
back and
so
forth down the
we were
roads.
not accidentally, but purposely, literally walking in circles.
Yeah.
I'm sure we are not the first amateurs to have that problem.
Well,
No,
and
but we had been warned.
You had been well, I'm right there with you. So you and myself had been forewarned, and we still made the mistake. And then at a different festival, we were looking for what our idea was that we would hit the lock button over and over on the fob for
Make
the
it
car
beep.
so that we could make it beep, or like the panic or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we're mashing that walking around. And like there were even a couple of times where we're like, oh, I think I heard it, it's over there. And like we go in that direction and there's totally nothing, like it's not making any sound, there's no lights flashing.
Quickly now.
And honest word, we found it while we were probably 5 feet away from it. We could have reached out and touched it and it finally went beep. Somehow I don't know how it was not picking it up until we got that close, but
you know, that weekend I fell in love with Sound Tribe. That was like the biggest thing. Like I definitely had a very odd obsession. I'm pretty sure most people who know me knew that I went through that phase for a very long time. I think I got to the point where I could have even probably told you the whole set list. But I remember the Chicago trip to you guys in January. This was probably like 12 years ago.
The show that we didn't go to.
Right, the show that we went to but didn't go to.
Right.
Yeah. That was in general just starting out the whole trip. We did it was like a huge snowstorm, right? That we were driving through just to get to Chicago.
Yeah, as it tends to be in the Midwest and particularly around Chicago with the lake effect in January, it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, that was brutal just getting through that. And then so we got there. I remember we got all set up and everything, situated in hotels or whatever figured out. And
and it was us three brothers and a few other people that we had brought with us, right?
Yeah.
Well, I also want to just bring some light to the fact that the trip in and of itself was not exactly easygoing.
No.
I remember that there was a lot of stress and a lot of tension in the car ride, even just getting to Chicago.
A lot of problems with directions and like getting lost and stuff.
And Brian mentioned before off mic that we were using MapQuest actually.
Yeah. I don't think anybody had like their smartphone at
right.
the time.
We didn't have a GPS, or I didn't have a GPS at the time.
And I think the tickets had been purchased for us too.
Yeah,
they were like a
gift.
Christmas gift. So the whole trip was based off of we're going to do this together as like a big trip and a Christmas gift. And I didn't have an ID at the time. Like not even a state ID or anything.
Which I don't know why we weren't more concerned about that.
Well, we had I had like a student ID and like birth certificate.
Okay, and we were like, okay, that's got to be enough.
Yeah, and we figured it would be, but I remember we got in line and I kept yelling out at us as they always do it, kind of, have your IDs on, this and that. And I do remember like giving it to the guy and he wouldn't even look, dude. He was just like, go over there. Like, no, go that way, go over there. And it was just like, dude, like, dang. I'm of age, I'm trying to tell you, and like, it just wasn't gonna work. And I think you guys had already gotten in, some of you. I think Josh was the one that was with me.
Everyone else at that point had pretty much checked their stuff, and I think even I did, but I was sticking back with you two because you're a little bit younger, we're in Chicago, right. I wanted to make sure we all got in.
Right.
Everyone else went through the entrance into the venue, and I waited outside with you.
Yeah, you did.
Having my young teen wiles, I had it in mind that I was going to somehow
get us in.
Yeah, I was going to pay off a security guard or a bouncer. I was going to somehow schmooze our way into a back bathroom door, which I'm not going to say I couldn't. It's happened before, but not with an 18-year-old. Like I was a little older.
Yeah, and I think after like trying to walk back and forth and try and find our way in, we just kind of got. Eventually, it was just like, this isn't going to happen. Like, this is over with.
It was a tough realization. We stood out in the cold for a long time. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually what I remember most is us standing outside there and being like, what the fuck do we do?
Yeah, what do we do?
And just having to, like, come to that resignation that, like, we're not doing this
I feel like...
You came out right as we were like getting our cab.
Yeah.
You came like out with your jacket and everything, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And you were like, "Well, you guys are out here, so I mean."
And I feel like it's one of those situations where, like you were saying, you were hanging out outside the venue for a while. You almost feel like that seagull at the beach who's like just out of reach, who's like waiting for somebody to throw him some food or some breadcrumbs or something. We're sitting out there like, come on, man, just. Throw me a little something. Come on, man. Just let me in. Let me in, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, with all of these stories that we've told here, there was always something to take away from it. There was always something that happened that, that stuck with us even today.
Yeah, Ryan and I definitely try to focus on the small wins, the little things that we can pull out of our crappy situations,
and those little lessons that you can take home, like buy a fucking GPS,
and where maybe get a fucking state ID, or
don't forget to bring an orange so you can rub it all over your body.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of good stories. That's what it's definitely good for. And I guess, we'll have to have more episodes where we talk about that. I think it'll be better when we can bring on some guests, some people who we've traveled the road with, who we can kind of talk about these things
experiences.
With. But I think that's good.
Yeah.
Call it a day.
And just real quick, a special shout out to Wes from Biomassive, our buddy, for mixing up our sound for us. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yo, thank you for mentioning that. I almost forgot, Josh.
Thanks, Wes.
I'm Josh.
I'm Colin.
I'm Ryan.
Thanks for listening to Not to Mention Podcast.
See you later.